We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement. Week 15 stacks. We're going to do a little bit of a lineup builder segment as well. It's been fun to do this not alone. Over the last, the beginning of the season, I was kind of doing this by myself. And then I had to reach out to my boy, Ryan Hodge, who is back with us again. We had to cut our segment a little short last week. So excited to dive in to two of our favorite stacks. We're going to build a lineup for each as well. But Hodge, man, how was your week 14? 14? Yeah, 15 already. So right now. So how was your week 14, my man?
It was fine, man. I don't really want to talk about it.
All right. Well,
let's say Holka smashed, which was wonderful to see. Yeah. Mine was the opposite, but if a piece of me has to die for you to have a massive day, what did you have, like 50x or something like that? Like, it was just such a great day.
Well, dude, here's the thing. I was also right there with you, not having a very good week for basically the entire Sunday, right? So I was sitting there on our 6:30 p.m. show, the Tilt Space Online Movement, not very happy with my Derrick Henry fade, obviously. So I was so, on tilt that I was like, I'm just going to play this showdown slate. Sometimes on Sunday nights, I'm so fried that I don't play that showdown slate. So I tossed two lineups in, built them actually with my girlfriend, which is kind of what we do in order for her to watch those games with me. So basically she's like, hey, like maybe we should play this Washington guy. He seems like he's good. He's super cheap. I'm just like, I gave her like options, right, of like cheap guys. She's like, let's play that guy. So we did that. And then Stephon Diggs, who's just like basically my hero, like one of my other big hits that I've had. So if anyone wants to hear a little bit more about that, I did a video. I'll put a card up, somewhere over this way. For you guys to see that video, the one up on the channel earlier this week. Yeah, there you go. I can never figure out how to point it. I'm pretty sure it's that way, something like that. But anyways, so we're going to move on to week 15, man, because it's going to be an interesting slate overall. Obviously, it's championship week. So one of my main clients has 4 seats in the DraftKings live final. I guess it's a live final. It's not necessarily a live final since it's going to be on Zoom, I would imagine. But man, these live finals as well as a lot of people, right? You had a very true sweat for one of these. We talked about it before, but I have a very specific strategy related question for you. So in these live finals, sure, you don't want to have overlap, right? If you have multiple seats. So talk to me through, like, if you had 4 seats in this live final, the field size is, I believe, 200 people. So it's not like a huge field or anything like that. Are you with me? Would you try to have as little overlap as possible and just try and get one team all the way to the top? Obviously a $2.5 million first place prize. We got to have some bullets, man. Or is it a core?
I think the actual answer to that might be a little bit more math related. How much did you spend to get there? And
so
what are you?
Yeah, exactly. So
what are you looking to accomplish?
Okay, so let's say this. If you were, I would imagine most people with 4 seats, they're pretty buried at that point, right? These qualifiers they're not very plus EV. Anyone that's listening out there, the DraftKings live finals, I've been to them. They're a lot of fun. They're fun events. It's not a bankroll builder by any means, right? So I would imagine if you're there, in order to break even, you have to do pretty well, right? So we're shooting for that first place prize. So I personally think that the core is probably the way to go if you want to like truly get like multiple teams at the top, but you could also have just a disaster scenario where you're coming back and you just didn't make any money on the live final in general. So let's say that you're mostly buried. What would be the strategy then with 4 seats?
Then yeah, I'm shooting for a top 3 lineup because I still think it's 500K to third, right? I actually should probably go look.
It drops off fast, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty steep drop off. So I don't know. I would still be okay with overlap. Like, let's just use a quarterback as an example, like a running back, maybe somebody a little bit easier to project and a little less volatile. Like, I would be okay with 2 Derrick Henry lineups, right, out of the 4. Or right. I would be okay with 2 Kyler Murray lineups out of the 4. And then maybe you expose yourself to 3 quarterbacks, rather than 4 quarterbacks. Like, that's something that I would absolutely be okay with. Unfortunately, I've never had multi lineups into a final before, so
you almost didn't need it for the record. So
I've never had to approach that, dude. I think it is so easy for me to sit here and say like, nah, just aim, just fire, all 4 or something like that. But dude, Saturday night when he's building and he's very sharp. I mean, you've been coaching him for what, 4 years, 5
Yeah,
years
he's like
now,
one of my
something like
longest term clients. He had
Yeah.
3 seats in it last year, which it was a
Yeah.
pretty good sweat for us overall as well. Yeah. So
So no, I'm okay with overlap, but I do think if you are buried to the sense of like 6 figures buried, or maybe even like 40 to 60K buried, I'm absolutely shooting for a top 3 to
mhm.
really try and realize my equity there. Because I think the other thing that you have to consider too, he's high stakes. He's been playing for 5, 6 years. He's still trying to realize equity from 4 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Like those
exactly.
are things that you have to take into consideration too.
Yeah, we have Al Smizzle in the chat right now. So what's up, Al? Everyone's to go check out Al Smizzle's channel. I'm sure they have if they're watching this video. But one of the things I've heard him mention before, obviously no stranger to live finals as well, is that a lot of times the chalk can kind of go under-owned with people getting a little bit cute. So Hodge, do you remember the final that you were at with King of the Beach? Like, do you remember if
I
there was
do.
like some clear chalk? Did you get weird, or
I
did you
ate
end
it.
up you ate it? You ate the chalk and
I
got
absolutely
second.
ate it. And I can tell you that because this is back when jamming hashtag team jam 'em in
Mm-hmm.
was just dominating, right? And I forced uh dude, whoever the 2 big running backs were. I know it was Lev Bell because he was like my late horse,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the other one was David Johnson. And I jammed them in. And I also jammed in Drew Brees at home, which was actually not smart. But like I definitely ate some chalk. I think there was like a min price running back that was like 3,500 or 4K that I ate too. But I got unique at wide receiver and tight end, and it worked out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so also what's funny is I was gonna mention it and I didn't even know he was in chat, but I'm pretty sure Smiz is an all time Stephon Diggs truth earned fan as
He
well.
is that he so I'm not taking the Stephon Diggs brand. I've had 2 like decent size hits that were Stephon Diggs related, but I mean Al wins the millionaire maker with a late swap to Stephon Diggs, so no one's ever going to
Yeah.
top that one. But I guess I'll be his second biggest fan for sure. Actually, in the chat, I literally was going to say this exact same thing, that these live finals, like you get there, everyone's like having a couple of drinks, like you're talking about your lineups, ownership, all that stuff. Everyone is literally just like, if I knew he was going to be this low owned, I would have played him. But like, it's all like
Yep.
the best plays. Sometimes it's not a normal tournament. So anyways, I don't know if there's anyone watching these videos that are in the live final, but we're going to skew our lineup builder for a little bit more of a smaller field today. So obviously we can afford to have a little bit more correlation. If, like, let's just say the field size is like 300 or below, something like that. So it is a stacks video. The people want to get the answers to the tests. So the first stack that we're going to talk about, Hodge, is in this Arizona and Philadelphia game, which is I think is going to be a relatively popular route, but you can get weird with roster construction on this one. So tell us why you like this stack.
Yeah, so look, the total is once again one of those totals that should fly underneath the radar just a little bit. You have Arizona with an implied team total of, I think it's moved to 27.5 points. And then you have Philadelphia with a team total that hasn't shifted at all, but it is awful at 21 points.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I cannot. Look. I think the field has been so much sharper at like not succumbing to recency bias. But I think when they saw Jalen Hurts do what he did, that is going to stick out.
Yeah.
And so I think this game is going to be owned a little bit more than it would be just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think it's like actually a good middle ground for a 300 person field, or quite frankly, a 1,500 person field, or a 3,000 person field for people who are building for the SPY and something along those lines. So that's one reason. The second reason is you have Arizona's first in plays per second. They are second in plays per second in, I think, when leading by 7 or more points. And then Philly's like middle of the pack, but when they're trailing by 7 or more, they are 5th in plays per second. So they can turn it up a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see also kind of what they do with Jalen and how they want to. Honestly, like it's unknown, and I do think that that's where some people will have a little bit of uncertainty, and I think people will flock to the Arizona side of the ball. But it's not cheap to go to that side of the ball.
Yep.
But so for me, the first thing that I did was I went Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Dallas Goedert. That was like the skinny stack that I made.
I think this game in particular, like I know it's a smaller field, but we can always do like some mini stacks along the way. Like skinny stack in this game in particular certainly makes a ton of sense. I like the Goddard play at 3,900. He just seems really underpriced overall. One thing that's interesting about at least both quarterbacks in this situation, normally we want to go after these running quarterbacks against teams that play a lot of man coverage. Both these teams play a ton of man coverage overall. The sharps, at least in the betting markets, are all over the Philly side of the ball. 90% of the money when I was checking this out last night, only 60% of the bets, and there's a lot of action on the over in this spot as well. So it's a really interesting game. I think that Nuke, I'm trying to get an ownership feel on what Nuke is going to be like in this spot. At 7,900, he's a little bit cheaper than some of these other elite wide receivers, but a nice game environment overall. I actually think that Hurts is going to be super popular. At 5,900, I mean, he just had 100 yards on the ground last week, so a little bit tougher to stack. I think if it's one guy on that side, it's probably just a cheaper Greg Ward for me. I think getting these really cheap wide receivers right this week, if you can get up to a guy like Travis Kelce at tight end, that's a path for sure. Not really that strong of a week at the top end of running back outside of maybe Derrick Henry at the very top. So let's try and mix in a nice little mini stack here that we like as well, since this is going to be our core skinny. Is there a defense overall that you've had yourself, catching your eye earlier in the week?
Yeah, not necessarily. I don't know if you've done a lot of research on just like pressure rates and so on and so forth, but like I have continued to just go back to using Washington when they are this cheap. They have been a good front, and Seattle, unfortunately, has Wilson's not taking as many sacks as
like he has in the past, basically, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So like it's a little tough, but dude, at $2,600, the pressure that they should be applying, I think, is fine, and that's usually just a good spot as a filler. So I
like that one. That's actually the top in my model right now. It skews pretty heavily towards pressure.
In my model too.
Yeah, there you go. So we're looking at the same thing. So we're on brand with at least our defense play. It can be a placeholder. We'll see where we get on the rest of this team or less of this lineup overall. So there's a couple different like mini correlations that I was kind of looking at so far this week. I think that it's one that maybe we want to try and find a cheaper one first, but I'm still kind of interested in the Kansas City side of the ball. I know we're probably going to talk about that, spoiler alert, for our next stack as well, but is there like let's dive into it a little bit. Is there a mini correlation in this game that you think we can fit on this team? We're going to have to find a cheaper running back to probably do it, but what are your thoughts about getting a little mini KC action in here?
Well, okay, so for me, if you want to tackle a cheaper running back right out of the gate, I think he's going to be chalk, and it's probably fine at his price point. But I think Cam Akers at $6,600 is more than fine, given his usage and given the matchup.
Love it, man. I've been dying to play this guy after basically last week. We get him on a main slate against the Jets at 6,600. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, and so what I was trying to do pre-show is figure out how I can get Alvin Kamara and Tyreek Hill in. And I couldn't do it unless we go with like Anthony Miller and Greg Ward or something along those lines. So I'll leave this up to interpretation, or maybe if you want to fill out a cheap wide receiver who you and Harmon talked about. I know he's super sharp with wide receivers. So if you have any insight on a cheaper wide receiver that I might be overlooking, I don't know about like DeMarcus or McCole, but I would love to get Kamara in this lineup at $7,400.
I like the Kamara call just because like in this spot, people like the narratives are flying, right? That he's not catching passes, even though last week it was a completely different scenario. Like I just mentioned before that like, what if they've been like really just trying to get that chemistry right in practice? And then we've got Alvin Kamara in his like kind of normal role at 7,400. Like he's an absolute smash against KC that we're just falling over ourselves to play these running backs. The game script should be there for him to catch a little bit more passes. I just think this game is underrated overall. So maybe Kamara on the other side. Yeah, I could probably get on board with the McCole Harmon. We're getting a little bit thinner with salary here. So let's just leave Kamara for now. And then let's throw in one of my favorite plays of the entire week. I think CeeDee Lamb is significantly underpriced against San Francisco, a team that's been shredded in the slot this year. So CeeDee Lamb is 4,500. Let's see where we're at with salary if we do something like this. We might have to still punt at least one more of these slots. So what do you think about the CeeDee Lamb Ayuk combination here and like as a mini stack? Are you on that one at all?
Absolutely.
Might be too expensive though. Let's see.
tweeted out something about Ayuk and outperforming on a fantasy point per game against some super good wide receiver. I don't really remember what it was, but it looked good to me. And those are the type of analysis that I give, is that somebody else tweeted something that looked okay. So yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb is good. Interesting take on that game is Michael Gallup rates as my number one wide receiver from a pure model rating basis, which I have some weights that are definitely geared towards like larger field GPP, or like not 300 man, right, but closer to like 5,000 and 10,000 man GPPs. And there's some pretty good weights applied to like their salary. So just because he's super cheap, he's going to rate really high. But I have CeeDee Lamb like 4 or 5 ratings right underneath him.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we lean into this mini stack we got going here with Ayuk and Lamb, and we just jam in Gallup here, and we kind of go. I like that because we went skinny on this Philly-Arizona one, which obviously makes sense, but we still have good correlation here overall. And then hopefully we get some leverage with Kamara, fine eating the Cam Akers chalk, obviously. So I think this team is really well constructed, man. Nice work, hot out of the gates. So let's talk about this next stack. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the Kansas City and New Orleans side of the ball.
Yeah, so you have a pretty good defense in the Saints, who I think are like first in total DVOA. They're fourth in pass DVOA, and then let me go look at their rush DVOA is first. So this team is really good defensively, yet this total is pretty massive. I think this is other than maybe the Falcons and the Buccaneers, I think this is the total that has two of the closest team totals, but still pushing like 50, which is usually you have like a 28 implied team total and then like a 21 implied team total when you're pushing 50. So the pace of play for these two teams also might just be a little bit slower. Kansas City tends to play a little bit more neutral, especially when they are, I think, winning by 7. So like, but the total is there. So this is one of those games to me where like, I don't care these contextual stats, like take it or leave it. But like Vegas is a lot smarter than me looking at Football Outsiders metrics and a model that quite frankly has my own biases baked into it. Right. So like it's, or my own narrative or whatever you want to call it. So for me, just going to Patrick Mahomes and going to Tyreek Hill and running it back with Kamara and forcing yourself to find value at other positions will usually tend to lead to a unique lineup.
I like this spot a lot, especially for Tyreek Hill. We mentioned this earlier, I think in the week. I can't remember which segment it was, but just against man coverage. New Orleans plays some of the most man coverage in the entire league, by the way, especially of late. So one of the guys that we're interested in this spot is Tyreek Hill. So just looking at the coverage splits for Kansas City, like Patrick Mahomes is good against man. He's good against zone. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Both these guys are over 400 yards receiving, about the same target share. But Tyreek Hill has 6 touchdowns. Kelce has 0 against this type of defense. Hill's obviously just absolutely lapping the field. All these metrics, some of these ones that I'm talking about come from Sports Info Solutions, of course. But Tyreek Hill, 8 deep ball touchdowns this year. The next closest guy, DK Metcalf, with 4. So I do want to get in on Tyreek Hill. I think at 8,800, there's going to be some people that try and talk themselves into going elsewhere. So let's start with Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. Are we going to try and make the triple stack work? I guess that's my question for you. Or do we want the Kamara bring back that bad?
I don't think we have to have the Kamara bring back that bad. I will say that like correlation wise, if this game blows through this total, Kamara should smash.
Right.
Kamara should have 12 targets, 8 catches. Kansas City's 30th in rush DVOA. So even on the 10 to 12 rush attempts that he gets, the goal line equity, like I absolutely love Kamara this week. I loved him 3 weeks ago when I came on the show. I used him last week. He's too cheap. But we don't have to do it in this lineup just for the sake of content because we use them.
I wonder if we can make it work. I like literally like 3,500 the rest of the way. So if we have I kind of want to see if we can make it work just because I think that there's people, especially in a small field, that won't be willing to do this type of premium stack. And the fact that we have Kelce in there, I feel fine about. I mean, it's nice that the tight ends gets taken care of, right? So we can get really cheap with some of these other wide receivers. So
I'm only bringing this up, and I'm going to pause you. I'm only bringing this up because you touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
In the live final that I was in, playing Drew Brees, all of those guys, I have a tweet that had a screenshot of that said, "So you're saying it is possible," because it had like 4 studs in it and literally like $3,200 left over, and that's what I did, and it worked out. So
baby.
I don't know. That's some weird.
All right, so let's. What's the cheapest defense we would play? Is there anything cheaper than Washington? I guess we got Jacksonville at 2K. We got the Jets at 2,100. We got Detroit at 2,200. Oh man, it's kind of gross.
Which team do you think throws the most? Because I think it's probably Tennessee.
Yeah, or we could go Tampa with Atlanta. Both of those ones are pretty.
Yes, sorry,
100 more maybe.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
I would play Atlanta here. I think Tampa Bay throws the ball a lot more than. Sorry, I don't know why I said Tennessee. And
I feel like sometimes when basically like when Brady throws picks, like at least recently, it seems like a lot of those are going back for touchdowns. So you never know. So that's an interesting one. I think it's going to be a good passive volume on both sides of this one. So hopefully a lot of plays. Okay, so we got our cheap defense in there. We're at 3,900 the rest of the way. Is there a cheap running back, like a mega cheap running back? I'm just looking here. We got the Arizona guys are very cheap. We got man, it's kind of it's there's no like just absolute layup super cheap guy. So is there anyone that stood out to you outside of maybe like a Kenyon Drake at 5,500? I think we're gonna have to go cheaper to make this work.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to dip down closer to like 4K, and that's probably taking somebody like Jordan Wilkins against Houston run D and hoping that game shoots out a little bit more. I like Jonathan Taylor's increased role has like totally X'd Wilkins out of anything, and it's just Hines and Taylor now.
What if we did, and this might be really dumb, but I'm just saying, I think that Kenyon Drake is going to draw at least a little bit of ownership there. What if we just went Chase Edmonds at 4,400? Yeah, I mean,
he was if you wanted to expand the Arizona stack, he was going to be one of the running backs that I use instead of Cam Akers.
I think we give it a try, just because, I mean, let's think about this like at least thoughtfully about some of the leverage we have here. So that's a cheaper one. We're still kind of in this range, but now at least we don't have to play any more running back, so we can just jam in all these super thin wide receivers. People are going to watch this video and be like, "What are these guys doing?"
I know.
So we both agree. I think that Michael Gallup at 3,500 is probably one of the guys that we're on. We can't afford CeeDee Lamb in this lineup anyway. So at 3,800 the rest of the way, we're still going to need some cheap guys here. So I guess we could, at least one guy that I like that we didn't mention before is Greg Ward. He's 3K, gives us a little bit of mini correlation with Chase Edmonds. So I like that quite a bit. And if we go that direction, we got 4,700 in the flex. That's not too bad. Could be worse.
No, that we can absolutely work with. I mean, there's guys who trust me, like I've rostered guys who Hayden Hurst is $3,300. Like we can definitely find something that works at 4,700, right? I think
you got Russell Gage at 4,700 if no Julio, but then we have the Tampa Bay defense, or no, we have Atlanta defense, so I guess that doesn't matter.
Atlanta, so
we could go CeeDee Lamb, but do we really want to just go all in on that? I'm just trying to figure. I feel like that might be.
We don't have anyone from.
Well, we don't have any San Francisco, but
we don't have Pittman's 48, huh?
Mm-hmm. That was one of the ones that Harmon brought up too. I think it's a wide receiver here for sure, though.
What about back to Perryman? I think he's sub 4K, so that actually could even open up the door more
for a different defense if we wanted.
Yeah, for a different defense for sure.
What's your take on these Jets guys overall? Like I've been playing way too many or much of them in general. So I don't know if I'm the guy to ask, but Perriman, like the volume seems safe, I guess. But I mean, there's good air yards and bad air yards. I would imagine the air yards that these guys get are not in the category of good air yards. So I think that the data sometimes is skewed with these type of plays. Man, this is a tough range.
We might have pinholed ourselves.
We could just go CeeDee Lamb and just like take like the no bring back and the target share overall. I think he's clearly my favorite in this. We could go Chad Hansen at 4,200 if you wanted to go that direct. I think in this range he might be one of the ones that's the most popular.
Do you think
7 targets last week?
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Talk to me. Okay, yeah. So Hansen with Houston is great. I'm concerned a little bit about that pace of play with just how many few attempts Rivers typically has. Talk to me about the Jacksonville-Baltimore game, and where do you think it's at in regards of pace of play? Because I know Baltimore's team total is through the roof, but I don't think Jacksonville is sniffing 23, and I could be wrong. Let me go check.
I'm not a big fan of that game overall. I think there's going to be so much running involved that I don't have a ton of interest in it, at least early in the week. So I think if you wanted to, like, there's some options there.
It's
for sure.
Gardner Minshew back under center.
True.
And forced to throw the ball.
Does that get us Chark?
Sub 4K. I don't know if it gets this Chark. I was looking at LaVisca. Let me check.
Chark's 5K, so we can't quite get the Chark. We could do mini stat.
LaVisca saw 11 targets last week. That's all I'm saying.
What's the split? Do you have any idea the splits with LaVisca?
Game log. I know that's so game loggy, but it's like I would need to go look at his splits with Gardner because I know that there's been maybe 1 or 2 other starts with Minshew.
3 red zone targets.
Yeah. So like, look, we're super thin here. I don't know, man. Please don't fire this into
yeah. So I think that, okay, so I'll put LaVisca in there for now. I would say that if you wanted to just add to your correlation a little bit and maybe just like get weird with this KC game overall, you could just add Watkins to the stack. I think that's 100%. At least reasonable. He's 4,600. Harmon just told me that he prefers Mecole Hardman, but at least Watkins fits. And if we're really struggling that much with that last position of this one, I think I'd rather just add to Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. So
I agree.
I
agree for sure. And that gives us room for defense too.
Oh yeah. So we have 100 more if we wanted to go up. Let's take a look at what we got.
I don't think it's a whole lot, but it's just an option for sure.
So we can go Texans against Indy or Falcons, basically.
I still think I'd go Falcons. I don't know how much Rivers is honestly going to throw the ball against Houston's run D, but that's such a hand in the dirt take and like
hand in the dirt take. All right, that's all we need from you. All the hand in the dirt takes. Everyone, make sure you follow Hodge on Twitter. He's at Ryan Hodge. Appreciate it, my man. These stack segments are really fun. Let me know in the comments what your favorite stack is. If you think we're completely crazy for going all in on that Mahomes stack with Kamara on the back, let us know on that. Toss a like on this video. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And Hodge, best of luck in week 15, my man.
Hey, man, you too. Run good in those finals, baby.
Thanks, man. See ya.